Okay guys, welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to be building the bird dog for the Guillow's rubber powered annual fly off. Just to remind you of the views, I've done this the last 3 years. The rules are, first of all, the kit is voted on by everybody on the forum as to what they would like to build. The bird dog came in first place. I think it was a Typhoon was second, which is one I voted for, but not to worry, we'll build a bird dog. You have to use everything that's in the kit. You can't use anything else. The only thing you can change is the rubber motor and propeller box. The kit was supplied to me by Model Shop Leeds. Check out their website. They've still got 4 of these in stock if you're interested in building one yourself. Great service and a great stock, so check out Model Shop Leeds. Let's have a look inside the box then. As I say, I have to build, can only use what's in here. So there's the rubber motor, which I won't be using. Ooh, that's good rubber. Preformed cowling, stringers, main spars. That's good. That's a nice bit of hard balsa. That's what you want to see for your main spars. Stringers, reasonably hard and not laser cut, but just die cut components. 1, 2, 3. That's all it is. Reasonable wood, not too hard, not too soft. Try and see what colour the tissue is in this kit. Propeller and nose thing and wheels, and here is the plan and tissue colours. There's plenty of stickers as well. Okay, it's in white. I'll go with that. The last one I gave a silver wash to, but there we are. White tissue. And what's this? Oh, celluloid for the windscreen, decals, and for a minute the plan wasn't in here. Plan, and what a great picture that is, isn't it? Really great. I always start with the fuselage Clifford. So I'm going to get set up, I'm going to cut out some parts, and I'm going to start gluing, and I'll come straight back to you and you can have a look, see what I've done. The aim on this build is to make it as light as possible. Okay, I'm going to, using all my knowledge gleaned over the last 3 years of building these little aeroplanes, and make it as light as I possibly can. So I'm going to show you a few little tricks along the way that I've picked up, which should help to make the model lighter than a piece of tissue paper, lighter than a feather, so light it'll float off the building board. Anyway, I've got some ideas, so I'll come back to you in a minute. Cheers guys. So let me cut out all these parts. Before I cut it out of the sheet, I cut the former positions, just cut through, cut through, cut through. Then I cut out the centres, then I remove the side from the sheet. If you do it this way, things go a lot better. You don't get the splits that you might otherwise get. That was an angled one for the rear windshield. How does that go? Yeah, former E goes in there, I think. The 3 centre formers, but C, D and E have to be made first, and you need to put a piece of cross bracing across each one. What I do is extend it over the plan off the sides a bit, so as when I put it on I can see exactly where it lines up to. The top ones are a bit more obvious because they go in the notches, but I put them there anyway. So that's all 3 made. And the other thing I've done, they say notch around the bottom first. Well, I'm only going to do the centre notch for now, and I'll do the other notch. I've marked them, marked where the stringers go, but I'm not going to actually cut them yet because I might want to move them slightly one way or the other. But I've got a little cutting tool I've made. It's just a piece of 1/16 balsa with a piece of sandpaper on the edge. All you do is put the sandpaper down, run some CA on your balsa, drop it down, wait for it to set, and then knife it out, and you end up with that. And then you can just pop it on the mark position and sand down 1/16 of an inch. So now they are glued in precisely next to each other, and I'm going to cut out form A and get it notched up. Okay guys, there we are after one evening's building. Two things worth noting. One, I've glued in the side panel, that's for a bit of strength there. And two, if you forget to put the undercarriage in, as I did before you put the stringers on, you can just squeeze it together and push it down from the top and it springs into position. And I'm also going to fit a secondary firewall, just slightly smaller than this one, so as the plastic cowl will fit on that instead of on the nose, because it's always a tight fit and you've got to sand away a lot of wood here to get it on. And if you do that, that's just where you need the strength for the rubber motor. So I should put on a secondary firewall on the front there. So that's my next job. To lighten the fin down somewhat, I've cut off that. I meant to cut it off the inside, but to be honest I forgot, so I cut it off the outside. It's reduced the fin area very slightly, but not enough to make any difference. But all weight saved on the tail is good weight. I've also used some very thin 1/16, which was on the edge of the strips. One strip was only half a 16th, so I've used that to do the cross. These pieces here, as you can see, are a lot thinner, so it saved a bit of weight as well. Now I'm going to do tailplane. This is the tailplane outlines. To save a bit of weight, I've cut off probably 40% of the wood from each side. So I'm discarding that, and then that will go on the plan, and I'll just make the stringers a little bit longer to compensate for the loss of the wood. I've saved that much weight, and the more weight you save in the tail, the less weight you need in the nose. So let's just build up the tail and then I can sand it up. So there we are, all laid up. I'll pop it off now and give it a sand. I don't put the sandpaper on the wood. I put the wood on the sandpaper, so it's sort of like that. So I'll move the piece on the sanding block more than the sanding block on the piece. You've got a lot more control because you can hold on to it. Anyway, I'll give it a sand and get it all nice and flat. There's the starboard wing then, guys. Just unpinned it. I've not put a lower main spar in because I'm going to not tissue the bottom part of the wing, and I don't want it spoiling the airflow. This is a way out experiment really, but we're going to see how it goes. Okay guys, I want to make a square nub in the back of the cowling. I've cut a square hole in the front. I've also added a couple of pieces of 1/16 cut from spare balsa, and tapered it down because I know I'm going to need some down first, so I've put it in already, the bulk of it anyway, just to aid it a little bit. And now I'm going to put a piece of balsa inside here with a square plug. Now the easiest way to trim this is you can cut it off and try and get it square, or you can do this, nice bit of sandpaper. Yeah, and you got perfectly flat. How easy is that? That's a little tip I picked up along the way. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to create myself a little plug, and that's going to sit on the front of that with a downward angle, ready for my down thrust, and maybe even a little bit of right thrust. But so I've just got to cut a bit of wood out. Bit more, here's a bit of scrap. I've got to cut everything out from the wood, or as a wing strut there. I've got to cut everything out from the wood supplied. Don't throw any wood away until you've completely finished. Earlier on I needed to extend one of the ribs by about a millimetre, I suppose. The easiest way to do it was to put it back from where it came. Dip the end of the rib in a bit of CA, put it back in, and it glued itself to the back of where it was, and I could just cut out a fresh piece and cut it off, and instant extension. Time for a quick update. I've put in the rear peg for the rubber motor. Put in the tail skid. Sandwiched it between a little bit of balsa wood actually because I didn't want it knocking out. I've cut the paper patterns and stuck them in place, and I've also cut some fine 1mm sort of size balsa, 1/32, just stuck that on for the front and rear braces. So the windshield is yet to be cut, but I'll do that after I've tissued it, or should I do it before? Good question. Oh, I've made the front cowling. That will sit in there. Just want a little bit of sanding. So what I do, I soak it all with CA to get it nice and stiff. So this is completely soaked with CA. This area around here, inside and out, is soaked with CA. And so that will go on there like that. So I've got a square pin formed to go in the square hole. This will fit. Also beefed up the top main spar a little bit. That will fit over there like that when I come to glue it on. And then I'll put the centre section on the cover after it's glued on. I might put little gussets in the corner. So I'll put a pair of gussets at the back there just to help. And of course I've still got the struts to go down. Something else I've done, and that's to take a bit of meat out of the formers. Doesn't look like I have, but I have, as best as I can after the event. So I've taken quite a bit out of this one and this one, just getting in there with a scalpel and paring it away. Okay, so let's get on the covering. I'm going to start with the bottom, then the sides, and then finally the tops. And I'm going to stick it onto the frame using blue stick. For those that don't know, the benefit of the blue is that you can see where you put the glue. And I'm not going to cover this piece because I need access to that for the rubber motor. You want a nice sharp pair of scissors and a nice sharp scalpel blade for tissuing. You don't need to do the centre stringers. In fact, it's advisable not to. Just the ones that need to be done. Put that on. Oh, the other thing you want to do possibly is to wet it, and then as it dries it'll shrink. And I've just got a little spray bottle. You don't have to wet it, it just helps to conform around the curves a little bit easier. But once it is wet, you've got to be so careful you don't tear it. I was going to knife this, but I think because it's now wet, I should use the scissors. Just to help that down. See if it's wet. This goes around the corners a little bit better. This bit missed the sprayer. Just very lightly sprays, just the gentlest of puffs. Little tip, if you're trying to get hold of something, you can use a nail file just to grip it, but you've got to be careful because it will tear it because it is wet tissue. What I'll do, I'll let that dry slightly and then I'm just going to trim along that edge. In fact, here's a little trick I learned along the way by a commenter. It might have been David Query, not sure. You can actually, say cutting along that edge, you can actually use again the sandy side, then you can just rub across like that and it'll cut through the tissue. Not going to do it yet. So this one here, I'm going to cut squared with that, but that's the start. Okay guys, that's the fuselage covered. Is the main spar that was underneath I've put on the top at the front here. In that way it'll maintain a bit of strength and give it a better shape. So the two inner panels I've covered because there's the brace in there which is going to just cause drag, so but the rest of it's going to be open apart from the top surface, of course. So yeah, do the tips separately and then they come out nice. So I'll just wait for those to dry, trim it off, and then I'll cover the main wing, and that'll be the covering done. I've decided to give the model a wash of dark green. That's a shame that didn't come out. Give the model a wash of dark green. To that end, I'm going to use some acrylic and I'm going to mix it with some water and I'm going to brush it on. There's wooden wheels on this kit. What I've done, I've sanded them. I've sanded at least a third off, if not half off the thickness. So now I've got two wooden wheels which are pretty light because I've sanded them down. And they look okay, so they'll have a lick of paint. Okay, then the oleo struts are on. I'll just CA'd them onto the back, should hold. I'm not using the wing struts that came with the kit. They're too thin, they're too weak. So I've got a piece of the 1/8 by 16th main spar material left, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to have to paint this each one and then lay it down flat to allow it to shrink because it's going to be wet. So I only want a hint of colour really, and this is actually more than a hint, isn't it? This is quite heavy, but it's okay. I know it's not the right shade of green, but it's better than white tissue. Once this has gone on, I plan to let it tighten, and then I'll give it a very light coat of matte lacquer just to make it, don't like that effect, I wonder why that is, probably where the glue is or something. Give it a very light coat of matte lacquer just to sort of waterproof it a bit. Well, that's it's not as dark as I hoped. In fact, it's not as dark as I'd have liked, but having said that, I didn't want it quite as dark. I just wanted a wash. So there it is. Pea green. Oh well. Now, the wings. The wings, the wings. These will definitely need to be weighed down. Let's start with the periphery. And I might go and find another brush because this one is quite stiff. Perhaps it'll look better when I get transfers on it. Might take the eye off of it a bit, mightn't it? We'll see. Shame about that, it's really ugly. Oh well. Actually, I'm meant to do one side at a time because I can't weigh it down. Whoops. Alright, how's that looking? Is it warping horribly out of shape? Yep. Meant to weigh it down and then put and do the other side. Oh, I can only do one side, so it'll have to be that one. Well, let some of this. Oh, look at that. That's absolutely gross. Oh well, I might give it a second coat yet, but that's not too good, is it? Hey guys, I painted it with a green acrylic. This looked absolutely awful. So my wife suggested add a bit of brown to make it camo, so that's what I've done. So as soon as that's dry, I'll give it a very light spray of matte lacquer. Then I can put some transfers on, stick it together. Okay guys, jumping ahead now. I've stuck the wing on and the tail, and I've just photocopied the center section very crudely onto paper and just painted around it very crudely, as you can see. Now, the other thing I've done is to just cut out the front and rear screens and just tack them on along the top, and the back one on the bottom as well. And when that is canopy glue I've used, and when that is dried, then I'll just bend it around and glue it on the sides in one go. So yeah, struts are in place. It looks a bit crude. And then I've got the wheels painted, they're ready to go on, and that'll be it. So we're getting very, very close now, and then we'll see if this experiment works. If that wing doesn't work, then I'll tissue it, but just for now we'll give it a go. Bit of fun. Doesn't look too bad, I don't think, considering. Put the transfers on and put the wheels on and the struts. Just got to give it a light coat of matte varnish, matte lacquer I should say, and she's done. Not too bad. I didn't make as good a job as I did on the first one, but it looks pretty sweet, I think. Looks quite nice in the camo. So there it is. It's all ready for some maiden flight trimming and my secret weapon. See if it makes any difference. Hit the little like button and little subscribe button, and I'll see you in the maiden flight trimming sessions. Let's see if I can get 20 seconds out of her. Cheers guys.